Good morning, everyone. My name is Melonie Noble, and I will be presenting on the 1993 outbreak of the hantavirus. The image included comes from the Encyclopedia Britannica and shows the effect the disease can have on liver cells. The specific strain shown is the Sin Nobre strain here in America from the Bunnyviridae family. Although it is known as a respiratory disease, it can cause acute hepatitis as seen in the image with the enlarged liver cells. So what is the hantavirus? Hantaviruses are a family of viruses spread mainly by rodents and can cause varied disease syndromes in people worldwide. Hantaviruses in the Americas are known as New World hantaviruses and may cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome or HPS. Other hantaviruses, known as Old World hantaviruses, are found mostly in Europe and Asia and may cause hemorrhagic fever and renal syndrome, or HFRS. The most important hantavirus in the United States that can cause HPS is the Sin Nobre virus, spread by the deer mouse. Although we have a full understanding of the disease now, Americans, as we know the term today, were not the first to interact with the disease. The Navajo people were in fact the first to experience the disease and knew it as a disease of excess. The term used by the Navajo for the disease was Anahat, the opposite of harmony. It is actually a fundamental Navajo legal term as well, and it is related to the forces of solidarity, or KE, within the community. This makes sense because when the environment was anahat, or in disharmony, there were excessive rains. This happened on two particular occasions in 1913 and 1933, where there was excess water and snow. This led to a bumper crop of pinyon pine nuts, and the nuts led to a boom in the local rodent populations, most importantly, the deer mouse. The Navajo traditions had not specifically linked rodents to the mysterious disease, but traditional beliefs held that mice and humans came from totally different worlds, and that it was vital to keep mice and people completely separate. In Navajo mythology, owls, crows, mice, and coyotes, even snakes, are thought to have spied for witches and evil spirits, and they therefore cannot be trusted. The images on the side are the pinyon nut and the deer mouse. And you can notice that the nut is growing on a type of plant that would be very common in Arizona based on the structure and how dry and brittle it is, even though it kind of looks like a pine tree. To solve the disharmony, the Navajo would focus on thinking only positive thoughts. Thinking about the disease would invite its return. They would also throw themselves into their work. The disease is now understood to be from a virus when the United States government did a study of it in 1993 after a native contracted the disease and was rushed to a government-funded hospital in New Mexico. The native originally went to a medical site on the reservation, but it was seen as too advanced and he was having a difficult time breathing, so they flew him over. It is important we know the beginning of the disease before the 1993 outbreak, because it shows the transition in belief of the Navajo people. Before the outbreak, the CDC had no knowledge of the disease. Before a study, the disease was treated as a problem purely for the Navajo people. And as such, the Navajo people found their own solution for the disease based on their beliefs. There is one unnamed individual who was reported at the hospital with the disease. I tried to find names, they just were never disclosed. Obviously because of HIPAA and such. It was found that a few days earlier, his wife died with the same symptoms. When the CDC investigated, they found that another 6 individuals from the same town died in the same exact way that month. A series of laboratory tests had failed to identify any of the deaths as caused by a known disease, such as the bubonic plague. At this point, the CDC Special Pathogens Branch was notified. CDC, the state health departments of New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah, the Indian Health Service, the Navajo Nation, and the University of New Mexico all joined together to confront the outbreak. CDC used several tests, including new methods to pinpoint virus genes at the molecular level. Were able to link the pulmonary syndrome with a virus, in particular, a previously unknown type of hantavirus, since hantavirus have existed before. Obviously, the old virus in Asia and Europe, this would be a new form of it. Since they knew all hantaviruses were transmitted through rodents, they started trapping large samples of the mice population. They discovered the carrier, the deer mouse. Since the discovery and cause of the disease, the Navajo's perception changed almost instantly. Although it may be anecdotal, I know that my grandparents still believe that thinking of a disease will bring it about. The Navajo now have a closer relationship with the United States government and are more willing to assist in research and education. The United States government has taken this closer relationship as an opportunity to study diseases affecting the native populations at a disproportionate rate. Think of diabetes. I have included a picture of me holding 2 deer mice, so I didn't include the source on the photo, but these are actually from my work. By now you are probably curious about the signs and symptoms of the disease, now that we've covered its history. I will say the signs and symptoms are the same today as they were in 1913. The symptoms have always been understood. Here's some statistics, and in the next slide, I will go into more depth about what medical intervention can be done if you happen to contract the disease. If the initial symptoms are left untreated, late symptoms will onset rapidly, and I mean very rapidly, probably 1 to 3 days. These symptoms include cough and shortness of breath, which are the result of leaky blood vessels and lead to collection of fluid in the lungs. Bleeding and failure of the heart to pump. These combinations of these changes can lead to shock, failure of several organs, and even death. Diagnosing can be challenging because early symptoms mimic the flu. There are currently no tests used to diagnose it, which is why a history of rodent exposure accompanied by fever and fatigue is a strong indicator of an infection, which is kind of hard to do because everyone's been exposed to rodents at some point. Although they are very cute, the deer mouse in the Southwest has a 30% chance of carrying the hantavirus. It should not be touched. I know in the previous photo I was touching the mice, but those mice were bred and not, they were bred and not wild mice. If any fecal matter is noticed that could be from mice, it is best to use a mask while cleaning, since the virus can survive in the scat. These mice can also be carriers of other diseases as well. If you get the hantavirus, there is no known cure. The only course of action is to be put on a ventilator and potentially have your lungs drained if necessary. Of all known cases of the virus in the United States, 40% have died, but in a positive way, 60% have lived. So here are my citation slides. There's 2 of them. Feel free to pause the video if you are curious about any. I also included a book as the last citation and put it in red. It goes into a detailed explanation of how the Navajo people helped identify the virus and included a lot of additional details. If anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to email me or leave a comment on my video, and have a wonderful day.